Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied, the blacker and denser it is. Carl Jung. You think you're in control of your life. You make decisions. You choose your path. You decide who you are. But what if I told you there's a part of you that you don't even know exists? A part that's been running your life from behind the scenes, making you sabotage relationships, choose the wrong people, and repeat the same destructive patterns. Carl Jung called it the shadow self. And here's the disturbing part. Most people never realize it's there. You see it in others. The angry person who says they're calm. The jealous person who claims they're supportive. The controlling person who insists they just want to help. But you're different. You're self-aware. Or so you think. Jung spent decades studying this phenomenon, and his conclusion was unsettling. Everyone has a shadow. The parts of yourself you reject, the traits you deny, the emotions you suppress. And the more you deny it, the more power you give it. In our previous videos, we explored the archetypes that shape your identity, the hero's journey you're living, and the synchronicities that guide you. But today, we're going deeper into the part of you that you hide from the world, and, more importantly, hide from yourself. This is about your shadow self, the part of you that's running your life while you think you're in control. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why you do the things you hate, why you repeat the same mistakes, and why the thing you fear most about yourself might be exactly what you need to become whole. Let's begin. So, what is the shadow self? Jung defined it simply as everything you refuse to acknowledge about yourself. The parts of your personality that don't fit your self-image, the emotions you were taught are unacceptable, the desires you learned to hide. It starts in childhood. You're born whole. A child expresses everything: anger, joy, selfishness, creativity, chaos. But then society steps in. Your parents say don't be angry. Nice boys don't get angry. Your teachers say stop being so loud. Sit still, be polite. Your friends say don't be weird, fit in. So what do? You split yourself in two. One part becomes your persona, the mask you show the world, the acceptable version of yourself. The other part becomes your shadow. Everything you learned is unacceptable gets pushed down, denied, hidden. But here's what Jung discovered. The shadow doesn't disappear. It goes underground into your unconscious. And from there, it influences everything you do. Think of it like this. You consciously decide you're a calm person who doesn't get angry. But your shadow still contains all that suppressed rage. So what happens? You find yourself snapping at people for no reason, getting passive-aggressive, or choosing partners who express the anger you won't allow in yourself. Your shadow is still acting. You just don't see it. Jung said everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Translation: the more you deny your shadow, the stronger it becomes. Here's a simple test. Think of a trait you absolutely despise in other people. Arrogance, selfishness, manipulation, weakness, neediness, whatever trait triggers you most intensely. Got it? That's your shadow. Jung called it projection. We see most clearly in others what we refuse to see in ourselves. The things you hate most in other people are the things your shadow is screaming at you to acknowledge. Your shadow contains everything, not just negative traits, but also positive ones you were taught to suppress. Confidence, ambition, sexuality, power, creativity. If you were raised to be humble, your shadow might contain your suppressed greatness. If you were taught to be nice, your shadow might contain your suppressed boundaries. The shadow is morally neutral. It's not evil. It's not bad. It's just rejected. And rejection is what makes it dangerous. Let's talk about how the shadow forms, because understanding this will help you see it in yourself. Stage 1 is childhood conditioning. You're told certain things are good and certain things are bad. Be generous means suppress your selfishness. Be strong means suppress your vulnerability. Be successful means suppress your need for rest. Every commandment creates a split. The acceptable part goes into your persona. The unacceptable part goes into your shadow. Stage 2 is shame and rejection. You express something authentic and your parents, teachers, or peers reject it. Maybe you showed anger and were punished. Maybe you showed creativity and were mocked. Maybe you showed weakness and were told to toughen up. That part of you learns it's not safe to exist, so it hides. Stage 3 is identity formation. By adulthood, you've constructed an identity. I'm a kind person. I'm logical. I'm independent. I'm easygoing. And you believe it. But Jung would ask, what did you have to reject to become that? If you're always kind, where did your anger go? If you're totally logical, where did your emotions go? If you're completely independent, where did your need for others go? Your identity is built on rejection, and everything you rejected is in your shadow. Here's the problem. Your shadow doesn't accept being rejected. It wants to exist. It wants to be seen. So it finds ways to act without your permission. You might consciously think you're a generous person who doesn't care about money. But your shadow might make you resentful when friends don't pay you back, anxious about finances, or secretly envious of wealthy people. You're not aware of it, but it's controlling you. Or maybe you think you're confident and don't need validation. But your shadow makes you check social media constantly, get defensive when criticized, or feel threatened by others' success. Again, you don't see it, but it's running the show. Jung said until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your shadow is your unconscious directing your life. And you're calling it everything except what it is. Bad luck, other people's fault, circumstances beyond your control. But it's not fate. It's your shadow. And it's trying to tell you something. Let me show you the shadow self in action. Not in abstract theory, but in stories you already know. First, Fight Club. 1999, a film that defined a generation. An unnamed narrator, an office worker, an insomniac, numb, living in IKEA furniture and attending support groups for diseases he doesn't have. He meets Tyler Durden, confident, charismatic, everything the narrator isn't. Tyler makes soap, starts underground fight clubs, sleeps with women, lives without fear. The narrator follows him, idolizes him, thinks Tyler is his friend. But here's the twist. Tyler Durden doesn't exist. Tyler is the narrator's shadow self. Everything the narrator suppressed. His violence, his sexuality, his chaos, his rage against a system that turned him into a consumer. Tyler is what happens when you deny your shadow for too long. It doesn't stay hidden. It takes over. The narrator thought he was in control, but Tyler was making decisions, starting Project Mayhem, planning to blow up credit card buildings. And the narrator? He was just along for the ride. Jung would call this shadow possession. When you reject a part of yourself so completely, it doesn't disappear. It becomes autonomous. It acts without your permission. The narrator created Tyler to do what he couldn't, to break the rules he was too afraid to break. But Tyler didn't just break rules. He tried to burn the world down. The end of the film? The narrator shoots himself in the mouth. But he's not committing suicide. He's shooting Tyler, integrating his shadow. He says, "My eyes are open." For the first time, he's whole. Not by destroying his shadow, by accepting it. Fight Club is the perfect shadow story because it shows you what happens when you live only in your persona, when you deny everything dark, chaotic, and alive inside you. Your shadow doesn't disappear. It becomes Tyler Durden. Second example, Joker. 2019, Joaquin Phoenix. Arthur Fleck, a man who's told his whole life to put on a happy face. Literally. He's a clown. He has a condition, a laughing disorder. His body laughs when he's in pain. His shadow is trying to escape through his nervous system. Arthur suppresses everything. His anger, his rage at being beaten, mocked, rejected. Society tells him, be positive, smile, don't bring people down. His therapist asks, is it just me, or is it getting crazier out there? Arthur replies, it's definitely not just you. What happens when you force someone to suppress their shadow indefinitely? It erupts. Arthur kills 3 men on a subway, not planned, not thought through. His shadow takes over, and afterward he dances in a bathroom. For the first time in his life, he feels free. Jung warned about this. When the shadow is ignored for too long, when society forces you to repress what's real, it doesn't stay quiet. It explodes. Arthur becomes Joker, not as integration, but as eruption. He goes on a talk show and shoots the host on live television. He says, what do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? You get what you fucking deserve. That's shadow rage. Not integrated, unleashed. Joker isn't a villain origin story. It's a shadow eruption story. And the tragedy? Arthur never learned to integrate his shadow. He became it. Fight Club shows shadow possession through denial. Joker shows shadow eruption through suppression. Third example, Black Swan. 2010, Natalie Portman. Nina Sayers, a ballet dancer with perfect technique, perfect control, perfect everything. She's cast as the Swan Queen in Swan Lake. But there's a problem. She can dance the White Swan perfectly. Innocent, pure, controlled. But she can't dance the Black Swan. The Black Swan requires letting go, sexuality, aggression, chaos. Everything Nina has spent her life suppressing. Her director tells her the only person standing in your way is you. He's right. Nina's shadow is the Black Swan, and she's terrified of it. Her mother controls her, keeps her a child, keeps her innocent. Nina has no friends, no sexuality, no darkness. She's pure persona, and it's suffocating her. What happens? Nina starts seeing things. A rival dancer, Lily, who embodies everything Nina suppresses. But Lily isn't the problem. Lily is a projection. Nina is seeing her own shadow in someone else. As the performance approaches, Nina's shadow starts breaking through. She scratches herself, has hallucinations, sees wings growing from her back. Her shadow is trying to emerge, and Nina is fighting it. Opening night. Nina dances the White Swan perfectly, but empty. Then comes the Black Swan, and for the first time in her life, Nina lets go. She embodies her shadow, sexuality, power, chaos. She's perfect. But here's the tragedy. After the performance, she says, I felt it. Perfect. And then she dies. Black Swan shows you the danger of shadow integration when you're not ready. Nina spent her whole life rejecting her darkness. When she finally embraced it, it consumed her because she didn't integrate gradually. She didn't work with her shadow. She became it all at once, and it killed her. 3 films, 3 different shadow stories. Fight Club shows shadow possession. Your shadow takes over when you deny it. Joker shows shadow eruption. Your shadow explodes when society suppresses it. Black Swan shows shadow consumption. Your shadow destroys you when integration comes too fast. But here's the lesson. In all 3 stories, the shadow wasn't the enemy. The enemy was denial. Tyler Durden wasn't evil. He was the narrator's repressed vitality. Arthur Fleck wasn't a monster. He was a wounded man who was never allowed to be real. The Black Swan wasn't darkness. It was Nina's suppressed aliveness. The shadow isn't bad. It's just rejected. And when you reject something long enough, it stops asking for permission. It takes over. Now, let's look at real life. Because shadow dynamics don't just happen in movies. They happen to everyone. Take someone who prides themselves on being always positive. They deny their anger, their frustration, their darkness. What happens? Their shadow finds another way out. They become passive-aggressive, sarcastic, subtly controlling. Or they attract people who express anger for them. Explosive partners, aggressive friends. They think, why do I always end up with angry people? The answer, your shadow is choosing them. Or take the person who says, I don't care about status or money. But watch what happens when someone else succeeds. They feel a twinge of envy. They find reasons to criticize. They diminish the achievement. That's shadow at work. The part of them that does care about status, that does want recognition, that does feel competitive. They're not conscious of it, but it's controlling their reactions. Here's another one. The person who says, I'm totally self-sufficient. I don't need anyone. What's in their shadow? Deep neediness, vulnerability, a desperate fear of abandonment. So what do? They sabotage relationships before they get too close. They push people away. They prove they don't need anyone. And then they wonder why they're alone. In our video on the hero's journey, we talked about transformation, about becoming who you're meant to be. But here's what most people miss. You can't become whole by only accepting the light. You have to integrate the darkness too. Muhammad Ali, Robert Downey Jr., J.K. Rowling. In that video, we explored their journeys, their falls, their comebacks. But what was really happening? They were integrating their shadows. Ali had to face his exile, his rejection, his fall from grace. Downey had to face his addiction, his self-destruction, his darkness. Rowling had to face her depression, her poverty, her despair. They didn't become great by denying those parts. They became great by integrating them. Your shadow contains your power, not just your darkness, your vitality, your authenticity, your edge. The question is, are you willing to look at it? So what happens when you keep ignoring your shadow? Let's be specific. First, projection. You see your shadow in everyone else. The trait you hate most in others, that's your shadow screaming at you. You're not really angry at them. You're angry at the part of yourself you refuse to acknowledge. Jung said everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. If someone's arrogance triggers you, look at your suppressed grandiosity. If someone's neediness triggers you, look at your suppressed vulnerability. If someone's laziness triggers you, look at your suppressed desire for rest. Second, self-sabotage. You consciously want success, but your shadow sabotages it. Why? Because success means being seen, and your shadow contains the part of you that fears visibility. Or success means power, and your shadow contains the part of you that was taught power is dangerous. You set goals, you work hard, you get close, and then you quit, procrastinate, or make a mistake that ruins everything. That's not bad luck. That's your shadow. Third, addiction and compulsion. When you reject your shadow, it finds other outlets. The person who suppresses anger might become addicted to exercise, punishing their body. The person who suppresses sadness might become addicted to work, staying busy so they never feel. The person who suppresses their sexuality might become addicted to porn, expressing it in secret shame. Addiction is often shadow trying to exist. Not the healthy way, the desperate way. Fourth, relationship patterns. You keep choosing the same type of person, the same dynamic, the same ending. Why? Because your shadow is choosing for you. If your shadow contains unexpressed anger, you'll choose someone who expresses it for you. If your shadow contains unacknowledged neediness, you'll choose someone unavailable, so you never have to face it. If your shadow contains suppressed control, you'll choose someone chaotic, so you can justify controlling them. You think you're making conscious choices, but your shadow is running the show. And finally, the point of no return. If you ignore your shadow long enough, it can take over completely. That's what happened to Arthur Fleck. That's what almost happened to the narrator in Fight Club. Jung warned there is no coming to consciousness without pain. You can integrate your shadow gradually through awareness, or you can let it erupt catastrophically through crisis. Most people choose the second option without realizing it. They wait until the breakdown, the addiction, the affair, the explosion, and then they say, "I don't know what happened, that's not who I am, but it is who you are. It's just the part you refused to see." So, how do you integrate your shadow? Let's get practical. Step 1. Recognize projection. Pay attention to what triggers you in other people. Write it down. The traits that make you intensely angry, disgusted, defensive. Then ask yourself, where does this exist in me? Not as an accusation, as curiosity. If arrogance triggers you, where are you arrogant that you don't admit? If weakness triggers you, where are you weak that you won't allow? The goal isn't to become what you hate. The goal is to acknowledge it exists in you too, even in small ways. Step 2. Notice self-sabotage. When you're about to succeed and you sabotage, pause. Ask, what part of me is afraid of this? Maybe success means being visible, and your shadow fears judgment. Maybe success means standing out, and your shadow fears rejection. Name it, write it, acknowledge it. Step 3. Explore through art and dreams. Your shadow speaks in symbols. Pay attention to your dreams. Recurring characters, disturbing images, monsters chasing you. That's your shadow trying to communicate. Jung said the dream is a little hidden door in the innermost and most secret recesses of the soul. Your shadow lives there. Write, paint, create. Let your shadow express through art. Don't judge it. Don't censor it. Just let it out. Step 4. Integrate gradually. Don't try to become your shadow overnight. That's what killed Nina in Black Swan. If you've suppressed anger your whole life, you don't need to start screaming at people. You need to acknowledge, I feel angry sometimes, and that's okay. Then practice expressing it in small, safe ways. If you've suppressed vulnerability, you don't need to have a breakdown in public. You need to acknowledge, I need people sometimes, and that's okay. Then practice asking for help in small ways. Integration is gradual, it's gentle, it's patient. You're not trying to destroy your persona. You're trying to make it more flexible, more honest, more whole. Step 5. Get help if you need it. Shadow work is difficult, sometimes dangerous. If you're dealing with trauma, if integration brings up overwhelming emotions, If you feel like you're losing control, get professional help. A therapist who understands Jungian psychology can guide you through this process safely. Because here's the truth: shadow integration isn't optional. It's going to happen one way or another, either consciously through your choices or unconsciously through crisis. Jung said one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your shadow is your darkness, and making it conscious is how you become whole. Your shadow self, the part of you that you hide, that you reject, that you deny. It's not evil, it's not bad, it's just rejected, and rejection is what gives it power. Carl Jung spent his entire career studying the shadow because he understood something most people miss. You can't become whole by only accepting the parts of yourself you like. You have to integrate the darkness too. Fight Club showed us shadow possession, when denial turns your shadow autonomous. Joker showed us shadow eruption, when suppression makes your shadow explode. Black Swan showed us shadow consumption, when integration comes too fast and destroys you. But there's another way: conscious integration. Recognizing your projections, understanding your self-sabotage, making the unconscious conscious. Not by becoming your darkness, by acknowledging it, accepting it, giving it space to exist. Because here's what most people don't understand. Your shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to be seen. That's all. It's been screaming at you your entire life, through your projections, your compulsions, your relationship patterns, trying to get your attention. This week, I want you to try something. Notice what triggers you, what makes you disproportionately angry, what pattern keeps repeating in your life. Don't judge it, don't fix it. Just ask, what is my shadow trying to tell me? Write it down, sit with it, listen. Because your shadow isn't the enemy. It's the part of you that wants to come home. Now, we've been exploring Carl Jung's ideas for several videos now. Archetypes, the hero's journey, synchronicity, the shadow. And next week, we're diving into a question that connects all of this. Why do you keep repeating the same relationship patterns? Why do you keep choosing the same type of person, even when you know it ends the same way? Jung had an answer, and it involves something called projection, the anima and animus, and the parent complexes that shape who you're attracted to. It's one of the most practical applications of Jungian psychology, and it might explain why your relationships keep failing. That's next week. Thanks for watching.